Welcome back into the Rounding Third podcast. I'm Nick. We have Harrison and Sean with us tonight. How we doing, fellas?
It's a good day, boys. What's up?
Good, boys. How we doing?
Doing pretty well. We will be, obviously covering all the baseball that's happened this past week and the championship series going on right now. We got Yankees, Guardians. So we'll probably be in and out talking about this game and talking about other stuff as we go along with the show here. But first, make sure you follow and like us on Facebook. You can follow on Instagram. You can subscribe on YouTube. You can also listen on Spotify and Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, so let's start with Mets and Dodgers over there in the NL. Game one was uneventful if you're a Mets fan. Yeah, very eventful if you're a Dodgers fan. 9-0 rout. Really nothing home, nothing to write home about. I mean, Senga started, could not find the strike zone, and Dodgers pounced like that offense we know can. And that was pretty much all she wrote for game one.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like you can't give them free base runners early on. Team like that gets hot. They weren't even close. Like Senga's pitches at the beginning of these games. I mean, I think I saw his first 17 pitches. I think 15 were balls, something like that, which is just insane. So he's not even giving them pitches to swing at. It's just free running the bases. And then on top of that, Flaherty was really, really good. Like he was really, really good. He was attacking the strike zone. Mets couldn't even get contact, let alone solid contact. It was tough. Not to use as an excuse, but I think flying out to the West Coast was a lot. And the Mets it's been a long couple of weeks for them, right? I mean, we go back to that doubleheader in Atlanta and then right to Milwaukee, and then they get the Philadelphia series. And they really haven't been home, and it's kind of just been a lot of traveling. I think they were tired, and I think they just looked flat. They looked flat in the field. Senga didn't have it. They looked flat at the plate. I don't know I don't even know if they had really any sort of approach. It was just like, let's just go up there. And it was early on that Flaherty had it, and I think that they were just too flat. It was a tough game for them. Tough game. Yeah. But they came out, you got to split, right? Whether you win game one or win game two, you got to split those first two. And they had a nice answer for that today.
Well, I think to Flaherty's credit, I think he saw the fact that they were a little out of sorts. He just pounded the zone. And he was it was fastball, strike one, fastball, strike one, fastball, strike one all night. Mixing in some off-speed stuff, working off the plate, expanding the zone when he could. I mean, he took advantage of what they were doing and worked out great for him. And I sent you guys a message. I felt like this was a bit of a throwaway game for the Mets, and not a throwaway game in the sense they were trying to lose. But when you look at your rotation, Senga's not your game one guy. The way Manaea's pitched lately, he's probably the guy you go to game one. But nobody else was ready to go coming off that Philly series. So it's kind of like, well, somebody's got to go. We'll throw Senga back out there again. He was okay last time. Maybe he can get us a few innings. So not that the Mets were trying to mail it in, but just they didn't have anybody else lined up to pitch. And it was like, hey, we're getting off the plane and we're in the West Coast and we're tired and we got to throw somebody out there. And Senga was the guy, and he wasn't good. And it didn't matter because the offense was lifeless for most of the game. And was it 2 hits they finished with? I mean,
three singles.
They never got anything going.
No.
Never got things moving, and it wouldn't have mattered who pitched in that game. They weren't going to walk out of there with a win. But to come back today, get started early, Lindor again setting the tone for that team, that's huge. You've got to get started. And they got off to a fast start and were able to pace themselves right out there. And to Sean's point, splitting in LA in the championship series, that's a great start.
Yeah, absolutely.
You've now taken home field back.
The crazy stat that I've seen is Ohtani at the plate with bases empty versus with runners on. He's like, what is it? Like 0 for 17 with bases empty, but he's like friggin' 13 for 15 with runners on. Like that's wild. But I don't know which way to go with this. I think the lack of depth in the Dodgers bullpen is going to be an issue. They have a lot of young, unproven guys in there. I think they were saying today they got 4 or 5 rookies that are pitching in that bullpen. So I don't know. I mean, that offense can definitely bail them out. I mean, we've seen it time and time again. Freddie Freeman on one leg is still better than half the teams in the league. Like it's It's crazy what that guy's doing, as hurt as he is, and still being able to put up at bats and get around the bases somehow. But
Yeah, he's a warrior.
I had to love the way he was like gimping home the other day, and in game one, and kind of like fell into Mookie's arms when he crossed the plate because he was done. Like he rolled the ankle again coming around third. Like the dude is a warrior, but boy is he banged up. And it's funny, we were after game 3, we're talking about the fact that the Dodgers have no pitching. They've been exposed. This is not looking good for them. And then what do? They rip off 33 straight scoreless innings and prove us all wrong that, we can pitch. Now, I think it helps that you faced the Padres, who clearly had fired all their bullets and were pretty much out of gas at that point. And then you faced the Mets coming in on fumes. But when you got a Mets lineup today that was awake and ready to go, you didn't pitch as well.
Yeah.
Well, I do think they deserve credit too. I mean, it was
sure.
3 consecutive shutouts, right?
Yep.
2 of them against Padre teams where you win, you move on. I mean, those were some stressful games, some important games that the Dodgers needed to win. And it was 8-0, 2-0, and then 9-0. Those were the 3 shutouts. So, that what was it? Game 5 they ended up winning, right? It was 2-0. It was a kind of a winner take all. I mean, to show up and have 9 scoreless, in a game where you got to win to move on or you go home. Whether the Padres fired all their bullets, so to speak, or not, that's still an impressive performance. And then after a 9-0 game 1, not only is Lindor setting, like that's a big spot for Lindor. He's the best player on the team. He's, you could certainly make a case that he belongs in the discussion for MVP. And they, was 33 consecutive or 34, whatever the inning streak
33.
was, right? And he puts an end to it. 9 pitch at bat to start the game, and he ends it. It ends here. Like, we're not dragging this thing on to the 4th, the 5th, the 6th inning. Like, we're ending this here. Like, we're putting our flag in the ground here, and we're going to own this game. That's a big thing for your best player to come out and do that, right? It's nice when you get home runs and kind of supporting runs from the bottom of the lineup. You need that, but sometimes you just need your best players to be your best players. That sends a message to the Mets. It sends a message to the Dodgers. Like, that's huge.
And I think that's the difference between the Mets and the Padres right there, is you could tell in that game 5, but I think I texted you and said in the 4th or 5th inning, I go, if the Padres don't score here, they're done. And because you could see them starting to press, right? They were pressing and pressing and pressing, where Lindor is that X factor where he's like, I'm not going to press. I'm going to let the game come to me, and then I'm going to make it hurt when I get my pitch. And he did. And he set the tone for that team. So,
and you had a guy in Machado in game 5 who tried to be that guy and hit 2 balls 100 miles per hour plus to the right field warning track. The difference is, Lindor dug in, took the long at bat, got the pitch he really wanted. Machado tried to force things a little bit, still hit the ball hard. But the difference is Lindor got the result. He battled, he fought, he got the pitch he wanted, and didn't miss it. And that spark alone, if Machado hits one of those balls out in game 5, totally different game.
Absolutely.
Now the Padres are back in it. They're alive. They've got some energy. The catches at the warning track are deflating. Lindor getting that ball out got those guys jacked up and completely changed the view of that game.
Yeah.
And I think it goes to show you about the grittiness and the approach that the Mets have at the plate. We've talked about it for months here. They're aggressive, but they're aggressive within the zone. When you saw the solo home run to start the game from Lindor and then the grand slam from Vientos in the second, those were both
also a 9 pitch. Yeah.
Yeah, 8. Both of them are 8-9 pitch at bats where they're fouling off, they're hanging in there, they're waiting for their pitch. Right, Vientos fouled off a number of breaking balls. Gets the fastball down the middle that he wanted, that he was looking for, and did not miss it. And those are huge at bats. Huge at bats. You come up with a 2-run single for Vientos, it's a great at bat, let alone putting it over the fence, which almost turned out to be essentially the difference in the game there. So just really, really impressive for the Mets to kind of put game 1 behind them and say, we're here for a split. Right? Game 1 didn't go, it was ugly. We're just gonna, I think A-Rod said it before, bad defense, bad base running in game 1. Just puke it out and move on and win game 2, and you're here. This is what you came for. You came for a split. And if you're a Mets player, Mets fan, you got to feel good after game 2.
Okay, so who do you see coming out on top here?
I mean, I'm going to take the Mets.
Well, of course, right.
I'll take the Mets in 6.
Okay.
This one I've struggled with going back and forth on it because I do not want to see a Yankees Dodgers World Series because I just feel like I don't even want to watch it if we get that. It will make me want to vomit watching both those teams in the World Series, but I'm so afraid we're going to get that. My heart says take the Mets, probably in 7 games. It'll go right to the wire. My brain says the Dodgers are going to win because that's just the script that seems to be in play here, to just make all of us miserable. But I'll stick with the Mets. I think it'll go the distance all 7. And I really, really hope they pull this out.
Yeah, I think starting pitching is definitely going to be the biggest caveat in this series. Like, if Walker Buehler comes out and actually is the Walker Buehler of old and gets the Dodgers some length, then it's going to be even tighter series than I think. But the more that these Mets hitters see these bullpen arms that Dave Roberts just rolling out, they're going to get to them. And we'll get to this discussion in a little bit because the Guardians do it, the Tigers do it. Essentially every playoff team is doing it now. But the Mets, like we said, grind out every at bat. They're going to get to these bullpen guys eventually. So with that being said, like, there's something special about these Mets. And I think I am going to lean, and I'm going to go the Mets in 9. They're going to extend the series to 9 games. No, I think it will be a 7. I really do. I think it could go back and forth because, I mean, the Dodgers can just hit at any time. I mean, they got 3-run bombs in their back pocket. They got guys that can hit gaps up and down that lineup. I mean, that offense scares me a little bit, but it's the Dodgers pitching I have question marks about. But yeah, I'm going Mets there. So
Clean sweep.
yeah. All right, let's slide over to this one right now. We got 0-0, bottom of the second here. Guardians, Yankees. Who do we got in this series? This one's an ultimate coin flip for me. To be completely,
You think so?
I don't know. I go back and forth on who I think is going to win this series. I think a lot.
I think Cleveland is so overmatched.
You think so?
Yeah, I know it's like, what have the Yankees done in recent memory? Like, I get it. They are notorious, like, playoff flops, but their playoff flops happen in the wild card of the division round.
And
like,
against a good Astros team.
This is a team that's got wins under their belt. Like, they just took care of Kansas City. Kansas City's a scrappy team. Yes, granted, they kind of backed their way into the postseason, but Kansas City went down to Baltimore and handled business, and then came to New York and kind of battled them. And the Yankees found ways to win those games. And, Judge is having a typical postseason Judge where he's struggling a little bit, but these guys are hitting. And I don't know how Cleveland wins 4 out of 7 games. I honestly, I'd say Yankees in 5. Yankees in 5 is my pick.
Okay.
I hope I'm wrong. I don't see how Cleveland wins 4 out of 7.
Yeah, and I'm with you, Sean. I look at this matchup and I go, man, the Guardians are the worst matchup, I think, for the Yankees of the teams that are left because they pitch well, lights out bullpen, great defense, and there's a scrappy hitting team. They'll wear you out, death by 1,000 cuts, single after single after single. The problem is the Yankees still have that 3-run bomb threat. They've got the power. They've got the pitching most nights, not every night, but most nights. So like some of those benefits the Guardians have don't fully come into play here. So I feel like the Guardians are overmatched, but I feel like the Guardians are a team that is going to play the same style of baseball every single night. And the Yankees are going to have to do something kind of spectacular to win. They're not going to give games away. They're not going to give you a bunch of extra base runners. So I think the Yankees win this series, but I refuse to pick the Yankees. So I'm going Guardians in 7. It'll go the distance. It's going to come down to a battle of pitching and bullpen that I think the Guardians can win. I'm really afraid this is going to be Yankees in 4 or 5, and they're just going to overwhelm them. But if the Yankees get going, they absolutely will. If the Guardians can just continue to chip away at them and pitch and catch the ball, they're going to frustrate the Yankees. and may have a shot to drag this thing out.
Yeah, I mean, Guardians no doubtedly have the edge in the bullpen, right? I mean, they've been lights out since all year, really. But for the Yankees to play like this and Judge going, 0 for whatever he's at right now, it's going to be scary if he gets going. Absolutely scary if Judge gets going. So I guess I'll jump on the train with you guys, but I'll go Yankees in 6. I think the Guardians can scrap a couple wins in there somewhere. But
Yeah,
I think game one's going to be huge. Cleveland just getting out of that there in the bottom of the second was nice. 2 guys on, 2 outs, and get out of that. I mean, if that's what they can do, and New York is going to have base runners all series long.
Yep.
New York is going to have guys on base.
and they've already had 2 guys on each inning.
Right. If they can continually find ways out of jams, obviously that's, I'm not spilling any state secret here. I mean, that's ways to win. I just don't know how much you can rely on that. As good as your bullpen is, it's just, that's a dangerous game to play when you're playing against a team that most of that lineup is a 3-run homer away.
Yep.
I mean, that's a home run hitting lineup. And that's just putting guys on there it's a dangerous game to play. Game one is huge. If the Yankees continue to get guys on here tonight, I think they're going to break through. I could see a 6-1, 7-1 win here tonight, and then it kind of just gives the Yankees the life that they need. If you can put some doubt into their brains, it's a whole new series. I just think they're playing with a level of confidence that we haven't seen them play with in the postseason in quite a while, and I think that's scary.
Yeah, I think you're right. They're feeling it like they haven't in the past. And yeah, the Indians already twice in 2 innings tonight, the Indians have had 2 guys on base in both innings, and literally they're 1 pitch away from a 3-run bomb changing the whole game. So they're walking the tightrope, and you can only do that for so long.
And history is history, but the Yankees kind of own Cleveland in the postseason.
They do.
That has what's happened. That has nothing to do with the series. Like it's a dumb thing to say, but like they kind of do. This is just like if you're a Cleveland fan, you're like, why do we have to play the Yankees again? Seemingly, every time the 2 of them are in the postseason, they play against each other, and the Yankees almost always come out on top.
Yeah, the Yankees own the AL Central in the playoffs. They own the Twins. They own the Guardians.
Right.
They own the Indians, Guardians.
Royals
they now own the Royals.
Yeah.
They've owned the AL Central in the playoffs. They have not done well against other teams in the East or the West, but they own the Central.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about the bullpens and how they're used in the playoffs here. So my question to you guys, are bullpen games still an effective way to win a game? Now, my argument with that is hitters see your high leverage guys more than usual in a series. Like you during the year, you might see like 1 bullpen game every 5th day. So your team might not even see a bullpen game or a high leverage guy, depending on what the score is. In the playoffs, you're seeing these guys 4, 5, 6, heck, maybe even 7 days in a row. And big league hitters are going to make an adjustment and be able to hit these guys. I don't care if they throw 500 miles an hour. We've always said these big league hitters can time up a bullet. And if they see these guys enough and make the adjustments, is it still an effective way? Or do you need the guys like Terry Skubal and the outing from Jack Flaherty, and you need a couple starters to actually give you some length so you don't have to burn your bullpen every single game? What are your thoughts?
Go ahead, Harrison. You go first.
So I think the bullpen game can kind of cut both directions. So for the Dodgers against the Padres, the Dodgers went bullpen game in game 4, which we thought was insane to go bullpen game, elimination game. Like, what are you doing? Like, that's the best you can do as a bullpen game. Almost like it was a joke. And then the bullpen came out and basically just threw up chairs all night. But I think the unique thing about a bullpen game is that, and there's a stat for Fernando Tatis in games, I want to say it was 3, 4, and 5. In 12 at bats, he had seen like 7 or 8 different pitchers. So like, you're not getting a chance to see many guys multiple times. I think your dominant starter is still the ideal scenario. A guy like Tarek Skubal who goes 6 or 7 innings, top-notch stuff, hard to hit, demoralizing, saves the bullpen for the nights that they need them, where a guy can only go 4 or 5. but the bullpen game can work so long as you've got the matchup set up. And I will say, Dave Roberts, to his credit, managed that game masterfully with how he played the righties and lefties and when he brought guys in, because he constantly had good matchups. Now, part of that's the luck of where the lineup falls, but it's also having the right guys ready and having the right sequence ready. So if you can match it up that way, the bullpen games can work because you're not giving these guys a second look at the same guy. If you can't get it matched up like that and you're putting out relievers who are not nearly as good as your starters or they're more back end guys, then it can blow up in your face. Kind of like it did for the Dodgers today, where, you know, Brazier got off to a bumpy start. Then was it Knack that came in and got lit up?
Yeah.
You have to have the sequence right. If it's not right, that game can blow up in your face.
Well, I think, yeah. I mean, I how do I want to say this? So they had Brazier when they did the bullpen game in Game 4. It was kind of a similar, you know, Brazier started today, and Brazier kind of got the opener there. I guess if you want to call it the opener, not the starter. Brazier in Game 4 against San Diego faced 4 guys, got 4 outs.
Yeah,
right.
So if you want to play the bullpen game, your guys have to get the outs that they're expected to get out. I mean, it comes down to that. The problem you have is the margin of error is so much smaller.
Yep.
Right.
It's so much smaller. You know, you don't have the, okay, tough first inning, I'm going to go out there and really set the tone in the second inning, and we're kind of back on an even playing field. Now, all of a sudden, you're bringing a second arm in, a third arm in. You're in the 4th inning, you're on your 5th arm. Like, you're just behind the 8 ball. So, like, that's where it becomes really challenging, is the margin of error is just so thin. It almost didn't hurt them as much. I mean, they lost the game, but it went Brazier and then Knack, and then the lefty, his name is escaping me off the bat. He had like 4 or 5 for the Dodgers. And then they had that that junior guy came in and threw like 3 innings and did actually really, really well. Now, unfortunately, that would have been much more high leverage for him if it wasn't 6-0 at the time, right? And so, you know, I think that was the plan. Kind of those 4 arms were kind of the 1, 2, 3, 4 for Roberts. It just, the problem is you're down 6-0. And I don't know, Nick, to open your original question there. Like, I agree that you give these guys, you see someone 6, 7, 5, you know, whatever times, you're going to figure them out. Is it that much different though than a starting pitcher go 3 times through a lineup in Game 1 and then seeing him again in Game 4 or Game 5? Like, is it? I mean, it is different, but is it that much different? I mean, like, it's still seeing a guy 3, 4, 5 times. It just happens to be over 2 games versus 5 games.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think it can work. I think you need the right guys. I think you need the right plan. And as simple as it can get, the guys that are on the mound have to get the guys out. It doesn't matter if it's a bullpen game or a starting game. If you're not getting the guys out, it really doesn't make a difference.
I think you made a great point. Like, the margin of error is so small because, like, you know, I bring you in to get 3 outs and you give up back-to-back base hits, and then, you know, you get the next 2 guys and the next guy gets a single. Now you're 5 or 6 hitters deeper than you're expecting to be.
Right.
And
So
now I have to think on the fly and readjust my whole game plan, where,
like, you might get your 4 outs, but they're not the 4 guys we needed you to get out.
Right. And that's why those 33 innings that the Dodgers did, like, they got who they needed out when they needed it out, and that's the result. 33 scoreless innings.
It was a lot of bullpen innings too in that 33 innings. So
yeah,
the guys were getting people out, and I do think that, you know, to Sean's point, you got to get the outs, but I think more importantly too, like, you also have to look at how the series has gone. Like, the bullpen game in Game 4 was a bit dicey because you were leaving not a lot for Game 5. So you had all these guys went. You know, now you're going into Game 5 hoping Yamamoto is effective, which he was.
He was awesome.
I mean, he, you know, his stuff wasn't dominant. He was getting a lot of contact, but he was pitching to where it needed to be and getting balls put in play and getting balls hit at guys. And I mean, he blew through 5 innings with 50 some odd pitches. I mean, he was cruising, barely broke a sweat. And then they went to the bullpen and didn't have to worry about it, but because they only needed a couple guys to come in. But I think the other part with the bullpen is that many of these guys are specialists. They're really good against righties, but not lefties. Really good against lefties, but not righties. They're ground ball guys. And that mix and match, like, if you have a guy who's coming in who's a right-handed specialist and he's got 2 righties and a lefty, he may be able to get you a couple quick outs, but now he's facing a lefty who's got a much higher split against him. And, you know, you've got to make sure you got these guys in a situation where their stuff is set up to do well. They got to get people out, to Sean's point. Doesn't matter who you are. You got to get guys out. And we saw the Padres get seriously let down by Dylan Cease in the series, who couldn't get anybody out in both games he pitched. And that's why they ended up in such a tough spot. But bullpen games can work, but you're putting a lot of faith in not having to rely heavily on that bullpen another night.
Well, the next 700 million guy just went deep for the Yankees, so they're up 1-0.
Bomb.
Yeah, but all right, let's kind of dial back the clock a little bit here and talk about the LDSs a little bit and how the teams got to the championship series. So Guardians and Tigers, Lane Thomas with another huge home run, grand slam to put them over the Tigers off Skubal, which was just like a dagger in the heart. I mean, you have your best guy out there pitching his ass off, bases loaded, and Lane Thomas, the best trade deadline acquisition this year, I'm saying, hands down. Two huge home runs in this playoffs to get the Guardians to where they are right now.
Yeah, it was an Eddie Rosario type of trade.
Yeah, for sure. And a grand slam to cap that off and get the Guardians to the LCS. But that Tigers team is going to be fun to watch, I think. I think they're going to make some deals. I said it last week. Hopefully some deals in the offseason and get them some help behind Skubal there in that rotation. And I think they're going to be fun. Those young hitters are going to develop. And the AL Central is actually going to be pretty fun to watch, I think, next year.
Yeah, and I think what's crushing about that game is that it was done against Skubal. So you went into that game feeling really good. You got Skubal on the mound; he's untouchable, and he didn't have his best game. Made a couple mistakes, a big one to Thomas, and I think when your best guy's out there and you got your best chance and you still lose that game, it's got to hurt a little bit more than if you had just another guy out there and you took your chance. Like having him be the guy that gave that up has to hurt a little bit more. But that team is, to your point, Nick, they're close. If you can give them somebody else, maybe another bat. I mean, that roster is so young, it's ridiculous. If you can get another bat in there, maybe find an arm to back him up, that's a legitimate AL Central contender for a while.
What they say, Matt Vierling is the veteran on the team, and he's 28. He's the oldest guy on the roster at 28.
Yeah, the average age of that roster without Javi Baez on it's like 25 years old. Like they are super young.
Crazy.
Also super cheap, which only lasts for so long.
Yeah, right.
It was unfortunate too for Skubal because he was so dominant in that game one or game two. He ended up going right. Yeah. Dominant in game two. And I think kind of the expectation is that that's kind of what we expect in game 5. And he just wasn't as sharp. I mean, he was good. He looked good. He just wasn't as sharp as the first outing. He scattered some hits. You really thought he was going to get out of it when he loaded the bases. It just kind of had that Skubal feel, come up with a big out, big K, or a big kind of weak contact type of thing. And boy, did that pitch get a lot of the plate. And Thomas made no mistake. It was just a miss. He just missed. It was a bad time to miss, a bad place to miss, and Lane Thomas didn't miss. And
it wasn't. Was that a first
it.
pitch? Was it the first pitch that Thomas hit out?
I don't remember.
Okay, I for some reason I feel like it was the first pitch and he was sitting fastball and got it and just let it rip. But I feel like that's how you have to approach Skubal. You got to pick a pitch and just let it fly because you can't. The way he pitches backwards, I mean, he's you don't know what's coming with him. He'll throw any pitch in any count.
Yeah. All right, let's get to Royals and Yankees. It's the one play that I kind of want to talk about really in that series is the Franco slide into second. And to me, it looks like Volpe puts the tag on. He kind of reaches and he brings his forearm kind of like across and makes a little bit of contact with Franco. Franco's out. Franco stands up, like Volpe taps him on the chest and then taps him on the back again, which Franco kind of took a little bit of exception to. And then, in steps Jazz Chisholm to insert his nose into something that doesn't need to be into and kind of stirs the pot. Bench is clear. I mean, nothing really comes of it, but what did you guys think about that play? Did you think Volpe gave him a little bit of a forearm? Do you think it was a clean play and it was just, a tough play?
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't think too much of it, like live, to be honest with you.
It seemed pretty innocent. He just went in hard and
Yeah.
he tagged him in the chest, and it was no big deal. They definitely had some contact, but it didn't seem like a big deal at the time.
Did you get the sense that Volpe took exception to the slide?
I think like I saw Volpe's forearm kind of come across his throwing forearm come across Franco and kind of push him out to the outfield a little bit. And then when he stood up and patted him on the chest, like at first I was like, okay, like I think he's saying like, I'm sorry. But then he gives him like 3 or 4 additional taps on the back. That's like kind of like cocky. Like that's how I took it.
Maybe, yeah,
again,
you could be right.
Well, but that's also my Yankees bias too.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that was, Volpe kind of pushing it a little bit, like in a subtle way. But I mean, I didn't think it was ultimately a dirty slide or dirty play. No, but it was just interesting that it got the benches to clear and for Jazz to come all the way from third base to, throw his 2 cents in.
I'm going to stick up for Jazz though for a second. Like I think when you're that guy and you're the energy guy and I mean, he was making comments after the Royals tied the series 1-1 being like, yeah, they got lucky. And, it's like, they just beat you guys today, but like, that's him. That's Jazz. Yeah. That's how he's always been. Like, he's just sticking up for his teammate. Like, I don't even have much of an issue with that either. Cause I'll be honest, and this is just my thing. If he didn't, I would have been like, well, it kind of delegitimizes all your kind of rah-rah stuff. You're either like a rah-rah guy or you're not a rah-rah guy. You can't get to pick and choose. And to his credit, he didn't, right? He was out on the field and maybe he did take exception to it and he thought, or maybe he saw the reaction from Volpe and he certainly knows Volpe better than I do. Maybe he sees the reaction and he says, oh, Volpe is taking, something out of it. So I'm going to go stand up for my guy. I don't really have much of an issue with it. I just thought the whole thing was kind of blown up altogether. Like I didn't like watching it live. I was just like, oh, that's a lot about nothing is really kind of what my thought was.
And it was like, so you watch it, Franco goes in, they kind of have the exchange, like you mentioned, Nick, like they pop up, Volpe kind of pats him on the chest, pats him on the back, says a couple things. They both kind of nod their head. Franco's walking back to the dugout. All of a sudden you see Franco's head shoot right to the right. And all of a sudden he's jawing with Jazz. And then Garrett Cole's getting into it and he's kind of storming at him. And then the umpire jumped in to kind of like try to settle things out. I think what happened is the fact that kind of Volpe and Franco were good. Plays over. Jazz is chirping, Garrett Cole's chirping, standing up for their guy. Franco says a couple things, and now everybody's walking to the middle of the diamond, and it becomes a much bigger deal than it needed to be because I think it was over. And I think, is Jazz and Garrett standing up for their guy? Yeah, they sure are. But I think Jazz is a way of doing it that pisses people off. He's like Randy Arozarena. He's like all hype, but sometimes the performance isn't there. He's like, you're the ultimate hype man, but he doesn't always back it up. Jazz just has a way. He's got the swagger, and that irritates people sometimes. And I'm sure Jazz said a few things in Jazz's way that probably didn't sit well with Franco, and Garrett Cole's chirping. And I think it just escalated quickly because the Yankees were all right there and Franco's all out there by himself, but it shouldn't have been a big deal. It was a relatively innocent play. It was a hard slide. It was a good tag. They were cool. And then these guys can't help but talk about it. And you end up with a bunch of guys in a circle.
Yeah. So.
My guess, honestly, too, is when the kind of the benches kind of all. My guess is 90% of those guys were looking around, being like, "Wait, what even happened? Like, why are we even out here? Like who said what to who? Like, I bet you most of them didn't even really know because I didn't get anything malicious from the slide. Like, I didn't. It didn't look dirty. Certainly wasn't like a chase out kind of thing, right? Like
right.
I thought it was a lot to do about nothing.
Yeah.
I was so bad for the bullpen guys who like have to get up, like they're running out of the gate, like to get involved. Half the time, by the time they get there, it's over. But they got to be part of it. They got to get out there.
I do love how they run side by side. Side by side, they run.
They're like
and they
friends on the way down, and they veer into each other. It's crazy.
Cracks me up every time.
If
I was a good hockey fight where like you just fight whoever's closest to you. You can be on other sides of the ice and you're fighting somebody, but not in baseball. You all got to make a beeline to the pile.
Dude, if I was in a bullpen, I would have my guys coming out in like a flying V formation or something. Like it would be so awesome. Like, oh man, but
it's crazy.
All right. Do you guys want to talk about the Padres-Dodgers series? Or, I mean, we kind of did already. Do we want to dive into that any deeper? I mean,
I'd love to get your opinion. So they're up 2-1. Some big games for the Padres, big hits, big moments. Games 4 and 5 completely flat, completely. I mean, the team was lifeless. They were. I mean, in Game 5, it looked like they had all checked out. What do you guys when you see something like that? When you see a dramatic fall off like that, what is it? Like, what happened to the Padres? Where'd the mojo go?
I don't know, because I was on record saying last week when that whole outfield skirmish with Profar happened that they woke up the Padres and that they were going to go back to San Diego. Yeah, we're going to go back to San Diego and possibly win the next two. And boy, was I wrong, because they went back. They win Game 3, and then they just don't show up for 4 and 5. I don't know if they thought that, like, all right, series is in hand and we can just coast, or what. I really don't have any answers, because honestly, from the top guy to the bottom guy, I think the Padres have the best roster in the playoffs.
I mean,
They certainly, you can argue, healthy, deepest in the bullpen, deepest in the pitching staff. Their lineup, I would say talent-wise, top to bottom, the Padres had probably the most talented roster, but it's baseball, and you still have to go out, throw the ball, hit the ball, catch the ball, and they didn't.
I mean, the baseball world saw Game 4 bullpen game versus Dylan Cease and thought it's over. Stick a fork in the Dodgers. Season's done. Who's getting fired? What are they going to do? How are they going to fix this? And then they respond by utterly dominating them for 2 nights.
But that's what you get when you have 3 MVPs at the top of your lineup, that the moment never gets too big for Ohtani, Betts, and Freddie Freeman. The moment is, they've all been there before. Well, not Shohei. This is his first time.
Even when Freddie's limping.
Right. But I mean, Freddie's been on the big stage before. Mookie's been on the big stage before. They're all MVPs. They're all leaders. Like, they're never out of the game. And I think that might be the difference between the Dodgers and Padres, is they have the leadership on their team. And for as much as we sit here and rag on Dave Roberts for some of the on-field decisions he makes sometimes, he's got a pulse on that locker room. He has to. These guys would not play for him, being the type of guys they are. They would not play for him if he didn't have a pulse on this locker room. So I think the Dodgers were they had better heads on their shoulders in those 2 games than the Padres did. That's what it comes down to for me.
Yeah, I also wonder too. I mean, I just went and looked. The Padres are 11-9 in their last 20 against LA. So it's not like you're going up against a team that, like, well, we just can't beat this team. This team owns us, right? But I do wonder if there's a little bit of kind of little brother syndrome in there, where it's just like, we might be 11-9 in our last 20. You know, we might be 1 win away from eliminating them. But, like, I wonder if there's always that kind of tightness that comes along with it, because it's the Dodgers. And it's the team that, you know, we might be better on paper. We might be set up to win this series. You know, their pitching staff is down. You know, we have the depth that you talked about, Nick. I just wonder if there's some sort of mental and emotional kind of, like, tightness that comes along with them, because they haven't really been able to break through. I do think it was demoralizing for them to be 1 win away from the NLCS, a bullpen game, and they don't just lose; they got their doors blown off. 8-0.
Bad.
They didn't score a run in 4 or 5.
Right.
I mean,
I think Game 4 was kind of the game, right? They lose Game 4, and again, they don't just lose it; they get their doors blown off. And now here we go, Game 5, winner take all. Yamamoto comes out in sharp early, and then it's like, okay, we don't have it.
Yeah, and Darvish was really good, and it didn't matter.
Right.
Yeah. I wonder if there's just some sort of kind of, I don't want to say mental midgetry, because that's really not fair, but just maybe some emotional and mental tightness that they just got to work their way through. But, I mean, how much longer do you stick with this core? You know, I mean, they deal with injuries, so it's like you always kind of have that to fall back on, that they've never really had a fully healthy club and yada, yada. But I don't know. I think it's tough. I don't know, to answer your question from before, what got into them. I don't know. I don't think it was physical. I just think it was a mental and emotional kind of drainage And mentally, the Dodgers just don't drain. They just
No.
don't drain. It's a good team that's loaded with talent. And for all of the maybe on-field hatred that I have for Dave Roberts as a manager, I do think he has a really good pulse, and I do think they love playing for him. And they play for each other. I mean, that team is tight. That is a tight team.
Yeah, and it's the Padres' MO. It's just they're becoming known as that team that they're good, but they don't have it. They just don't have it. They got guys with swagger, they got guys that can talk, they got guys that can hit, but when the lights are bright, they shrink. And that continues to be their MO. They get into these big moments, and as good as they looked early in the series when the games got tight and the lights got brighter, they disappeared. Hats off to the Dodgers. They pitched extremely well. But the Padres, there was no fight. They weren't going deep into bats anymore. They weren't making much solid contact. Like, they were flailing at things. They looked like a different team in games 4 and 5.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Since we're in the NL West and it's competitive, let's talk about the Colorado Rockies. So
Why?
Bud Black is extended by the Rockies. And I throw this question in here because I don't really know the answer, but are the Rockies content with finishing last year after year in the NL West? Or do they just not feel like they can compete in the NL West? So they're just like, well, Bud Black's been a rock for our organization for however long he's been there now. It seems like forever. And we just extend him for some more? Like, what do we do?
Yeah, I don't know. Just to go real quick back to a comment, though, Richard said that Roberts has done wonders with an injured staff. He sure has. I mean, I've been very vocally against Roberts for the past couple of years. I didn't think he was all that good, but I'm not fully turned around on him, but I'll walk it back a little bit because I think the way that they ended this year and then through the postseason, he's been fantastic. And we did talk about it, at the beginning here about what a great job he's done with the bullpen games. Mm-hmm. The right kind of guys coming in at the right times against the right hitters. And, it's up to the players to perform, but Roberts has done a really good job of putting them in the right positions for the most part to perform how they're supposed to perform. So he's done a great job.
Yeah.
And then Yankees are 3-zip. They scored on 2 pass balls in the bottom of the third here.
The Guardians letting this get away.
Yeah. So
I mean, both of them, Bo Naylor's got to block those. I mean, both of them, he's trying to backhand with a guy on third. You just can't have it.
You can't give runs away against this team. They'll bury you.
That's when the knee down approach at catching, I don't understand it with a runner on third when you have to smother everything in the dirt.
But you can still, you just got to put the effort in. I mean, you can still, you still see guys do it. But you just got to, so to speak, put your nuts in front of it.
I mean
he's just
Tony Pena and Benito Santiago love that position. They blocked everything. No. And I think that, to go back to Dave Roberts, I think a lot of the hate for Dave Roberts comes from the fact that he always has loaded rosters. I mean, you look at this; they built like an all-world all-star team this year. Now, granted, they have so many injuries. You lost Yamamoto for most of the season, Walker Buehler most of the season. You lost Glasnow for huge chunks of the season and the playoffs. No Gonsolin, no May, basically no Kershaw. Like, you go down the list of injuries, you're like, holy cow! Like, they've lost an all-star team of pitching. And I think Dave Roberts did a great job managing it. It helps to have extremely solid veterans on the offensive side who are kind of handling that, and you can count on that lineup every night. But Roberts always has loaded teams, and when they don't win, I think he catches a lot of hate. But what we're seeing this year is we're actually seeing him have to manage closely and manage with a lot of control, and he's done a really good
decisions.
Job. Yeah, he's
making decisions.
He's having to make decisions versus just filling out the lineup card, and we're seeing that he's actually doing a really good job.
Well, I think the frustrating part for me over the past couple of years was, okay, that was a decision that was very clearly a statistics-based decision.
Right.
Like, can we make a legitimate decision based on like what have we seen from, because we've been talking about like bullpen arms coming in. It's like, why is this guy coming in this situation? Well, the stats say that the batter is bad against right-handed pitchers. It's like, yeah, but this guy's been horrible for 2 months. Like he's now seemingly maybe not disregarding the sabermetrics part, but it's like, okay, we're actually going to have a plan and we're going to follow through, but we're also going to use our brain and our eyes and say, okay, this plan is working, so we're going to stick with this particular plan. Yeah. And I think that's the one thing that we're seeing this year that I didn't think, at least I certainly wasn't getting the sense that he was doing in years past. And so I think you certainly got to give him credit for that.
Yeah, he's definitely managing more now than he has.
he's right. He's reading the game a lot better than we've seen, or what it seems from
That's my
our
sense, yeah.
perspective.
That's my
Right.
sense.
But yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah, where was
Richard said he's a Dodgers fan, and didn't like him and actually likes him a little bit more now. But yeah, we were in the same boat. We thought Dave Roberts was either managing based on what the iPad said or what the front office said. I think what we're learning this year is he's actually managing more of this on his own now, and I think that's why you've seen different results. I think he's.
I think it was
he's in a
interesting
spot where he's able to make those decisions.
I'll be interested to see kind of what the Dodger game plan is for Game 3 in New York on, was it Wednesday? Bullpen game today. You didn't see Kopech.
Yep.
You got what's his face, Walker Buehler going, who has not been good this postseason. Just not been good. I mean, even the end of the regular season, just not good. So I'm interested kind of what kind of leash does he have? Is Kopech the first guy to come out? I mean, keep in mind, this guy was a starter for a good chunk of his career before getting to LA. Like, is he a guy that they go to early and just say, okay, you got to give us 3 to 4 innings, that type of thing? That'll be kind of a in-game type of management situation that I'm interested to see how he handles it. I mean, who knows? This could all be, what's his Buehler could come out and shove. I mean, who knows? But I think that's an interesting, having a guy like Kopech that you didn't see today. I thought that was strategic. I think there was a reason why you didn't see that guy today.
Yeah, you don't want to burn those bullets in a game you were clearly not. You didn't have a great shot in. And I will say he's been very careful not to use Kopech in anything more than like the 8th and the 9th.
Yeah,
and I think the Dave Roberts of old would be tempted to bring him in like the 6th inning to get one big out, and then you mess up the whole back end of the bullpen for the rest of the night.
But I again though, we could go back and forth on this. I think postseason though is where it gets sticky because if you have a guy that you believe is a high leverage guy, which he believes Kopech is, sometimes those high leverage situations are the 5th inning.
Yeah, agreed.
Sometimes, and who was incredible at that was Francona was always really, really good at that. Whether it was in Boston or whether it was in Cleveland, I was like, hey, I know it's the 6th or the 7th, but my high leverage guy is coming in a high leverage moment. I'm curious to see how the Dodgers continue to handle that throughout the rest of the series.
Yeah, I think the difference is Francona would do that, but he knew what plan B was to get through the rest of the game. I think in the past, Roberts has done that and then tried to figure it out versus already knowing what you do next.
Fair.
Because Francona would be great. You'd look up and you have guys coming. You'd have Koji coming in the 6th inning. Like, what the hell? But we need big outs right now. Biggest outs.
His both in Cleveland and Boston, his Swiss Army knife was Andrew Miller. You'd be like, why is Andrew Miller coming in? And Andrew Miller was one of his favorite high leverage guys, but he proved him right more often than not. Certainly.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, let's stay with the Dodgers. We'll come back to the Bud Black thing, but stay with the Dodgers. But Kershaw announced today that he's planning to return for 2025. I think it's mostly just to get to the 3,000 K mark. This guy's faced so many injuries the last couple of years. There's no doubt the guy is one of the best left-handed pitchers of all time. It is what it is. But do you think he's coming back just to get to this milestone and then we kind of hang up the cleats after? Or
he threw 30 innings this year and bookended by big injuries. Like, I doubt he's got much left in the tank, and I'm sure the Dodgers are going to let him come back and get his record and then drive off into the sunset. And it's like a lifetime achievement award. Sure, Clayton, come back, get your number, and we'll see. But he's got nothing left to give at this point physically. Maybe this next surgery will fix all of his woes and he'll be great again. But the track record lately is not good, and physically he just doesn't seem to have it anymore.
No. All right. So, like I said before, we went kind of back to the Dave Roberts thing. Bud Black extended by the Rockies. What is the Rockies' plan here, if they even have one? Is it just to keep consistency in the clubhouse, or are they just content to bring up the rear year after year?
Well, I don't know if that's a fair question to put it that way on Bud Black. Like, I can't think of many, not that I sat here and watched 162 Rocky games, but I don't think Bud Black's the reason why they're losing a bunch of games. The guy's got some wins under his belt. He's proven that he can win in Major League Baseball. The roster just isn't there. I think, like, if you want to be a team and you want to send the message that, like, hey, we're here to build a stabilizing kind of organization here that can build their way out of the depths. I don't think the way to go about it is managers for 1 year at a time. Right? Like that's just it's too chaotic. I think they're happy with what he does with what he has, clearly, because they're extending him. I would say this: if you are a Rockies fan that is against like extending Bud Black, that's fine. But I would like to know, like, what's your move then? Like, if Bud Black is gone, then who are we replacing him with? Because I think that's
fair.
it's the devil you know type of situation. Because until you get better players and until you can draft better and consistently develop talent at the minor league level and bring that talent to perform at the major league level, it really doesn't make a difference who your major league manager is. You're not going to win many baseball games.
Yeah.
So,
fair.
I think if nothing else, Bud Black being a guy, what was the trivia question we had about a month ago, right? The active wins question or something like that. How many wins does he have?
He has over 1,000.
Over 1,000 wins.
Yeah.
It's a lot of baseball.
But even more losses.
Yeah.
Well, I get that. But that's a lot of wins, though.
It is.
If nothing else, it's a stabilizing kind of presence in the clubhouse. It's like, okay, like I've been here. I know what it takes. And, we need to just consistently bring more talent in and develop better talent and just get the guys to perform.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know that that's a fair question that Bud Black is the reason why they're finishing last, I guess is my point on that.
No, and I think the bigger point Nick is getting at is the Rockies just continue to do the same thing over and over again. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing
Sure.
and expecting a different result. The Rockies keep doing the same stuff year after year and getting the same result, almost like they're surprised by it. I agree. I don't think Bud Black is a problem. I think it's the organization that is just kind of lost. But to your point about the roster, this is a team that had close to $160 million in payroll last year. So not chump change, not at the top of the league, but somewhere in the middle. But they got German Marquez making $10 million, Chris Bryant making $28 million, Daniel Bard's making $9.5 million. They're still spending $5 million a year on Nolan Arenado. They got $6 million for Elias Diaz, who they traded. You got $15 million for Kyle Freeland. You had $14.5 million for Charlie Blackmon, who's a shell of himself. Like, you had a lot of money tied up in guys that are not performing. And this is definitely like a roster construction issue. Like, they just don't have the talent. Like, you could put whoever you think the greatest manager in baseball ever in that dugout, that team is still going to finish last. Like, you can't take guys that aren't talented, that aren't at that level of talent, and all of a sudden make them a contender. All indications are Bud Black is extremely well respected by the players. He's a great baseball guy. That's why he's been there so long. But the Rockies have to get up in the morning and do something different. Like, make some moves, do something different, develop some players, find some contracts, build a better roster. But you can't keep rolling out the same roster and the same group every year and just be like, oh, I thought we'd be better this year. Well, how the hell could you think that? Like, if I'm a Rockies fan, I want to see something different. Like, Blackmon's gone. Where's that money going? Who are we going to go get? Like, what are we going to do differently here? Because we're not doing anything. We're not making any moves here. We're not actively participating in trying to make this team better.
Now, So the Rockies do have some young pieces. You have Ryan McMahon. You have Ezekiel Tovar. Like, you do have some nice players in that organization. And maybe they do have a plan. And like you said, I think Bud Black being a stabilizing piece and knowing what you're going to get from him is a huge part of that. And you don't want to switch that out, and screw everything up, right? Like, keep that part consistent. We know that it's consistent. He's going to be there, and we can keep bringing these young kids in. Heck, maybe we get another free agent piece that will help these younger kids develop. And maybe there's talent. I don't know what they have for talent in the minor leagues in the Rockies system. Again, don't really pay that close attention to them. But they do have some young pieces that could possibly get this organization moving in the right direction. Because I'd love to see it. But if you're a free agent pitcher, are you signing in Colorado? Probably not. I don't need to see my ERA be 15 every time I go out and look at the scoreboard.
Well, and just to go back to the minor league ranking, they're 24th rated in baseball.
Okay, so not good.
They've got a couple of guys.
You had to draft and develop.
And it's taken them 5 years to get those two guys up to the major league level. So they do not do a good job drafting, developing, trading, and developing. They don't do a good job with any of that. and they haven't for a while.
Yeah.
But you're right.
All right.
Are you
I think-
how many free agents are thinking, man, I'd love to go play in Colorado. I'd love to go be in Denver, a mile high. Nobody. Nobody's like rushing to Colorado to go play there.
Chris
Cleveland's got to
Bryant
get
was.
Bo Naylor out of this game.
He's not a great catcher.
Dude,
I don't-
this is horrible. He even tries to smother it, and it's still
Yeah.
a fastball.
We'll see Austin Hedges next inning for sure.
I have to
You
think
got
he will.
to. You have to. I wonder too if I don't want to say they're shell shocked, but what a poor turn of events, because when Chris Bryant hit free agency and ended up signing there, I think everyone was kind of shocked. I was certainly shocked. I'm not going to talk or
Absolutely.
put words in other people's mouth. I was not expecting him to say, yeah, I'm going to go to Colorado. Goes to Colorado, literally can't stay healthy. Just can't get on the field.
No.
And it's like, that sets you back.
Huge.
It wouldn't set you back. It wouldn't set you back as much if you had a good farm system and you were funneling these younger players in, but you don't. And you're not a huge draw for free agency. You do get one guy to come in and say, you know what, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna be the guy that kind of first one through the wall mentality, and then he cannot stay healthy. And it just sets everything back. It just sets everything back, and it's unfortunate for them. I'd like to see them get some guys in, particularly some offensive guys. Maybe just take the approach to just win 8-7 every night. I mean, that would be exciting to watch. But I mean, we'll see. They do have to do something different, though, drastically different.
And I will say with the Rockies, they're not the A's where they're just milking this thing to make a bunch of money. Last year they lost $17 million. They had a payroll of $160 million. The A's had a payroll of $12 and made $60 million. The Monforts are not sitting there just like treating this thing like an ATM making money off it. They are investing where they can, but they're also a small market. Their revenue is in the bottom third of the league, and they can only do so much. So, to Sean's point, you have to hit on developing players in the minors because you don't have the payroll to go sign another Chris Bryant. That contract is a gigantic weight around their neck, and there's not much you can do about it because you're stuck with it. But that's a huge setback. They can't afford to go spend that kind of money on another player. They just don't have the resources.
Right. And
You
it's
got
not
to
like
hit on those.
Right. And it's not like they can trade that contract away because, like you said, Chris Bryant can't stay on the field. So you can't.
And they can't afford to eat it.
Right. So it's not like the Red Sox when they got rid of Crawford and Price, it was easier to get rid of those contracts because they were playing. They were able to get onto the field. So it was like easier to get rid of those contracts. With Chris Bryant, you're not going to, no team's going to take a flyer on that, a $28 million flyer. They're just not.
No, and the Boston Red Sox revenue is 60% higher than the Rockies. Like you could eat a contract if you have to. Rockies can't do it.
Right.
You've got to hit on every signing and you've got to develop players. If one of those two things doesn't happen, you're in a world of hurt. And for right now for them, both of those things aren't happening.
Yeah, for sure.
And until Chris Bryant is gone, they're stuck.
Yep. All right. Well, the Minnesota Twins are for sales.
I'm sorry. We can't just gloss over this, Nick. We can't just gloss over this.
The Twins are for sale. So do you want to put a bid
John,
in, fellas?
we're going to schedule that because I want to hear it.
We'll have plenty of time in the off season to talk about that.
No doubt.
Because we went on for another hour after the show. So
We did.
Well, but yeah. So Minnesota Twins are for sale. So maybe we can get baseball history dork in on this, and we can go and buy the Twins here.
I'm going to put a GoFundMe link in the chat if anyone help us go and make a bid for the Twins.
Yeah,
that'd be sweet.
That'd be awesome. Does this?
They'd be winning the division by like next year if we were in charge. Let's be serious.
Yeah, sure. Does this move the needle for Twins? Do you think this could put them over the hump? Maybe like if they get an investor in there that wants to bring in more pieces around Correa and what they have there, could this help the franchise, or do you think this is maybe like a hard reset for that organization?
And I meant to look it up. Are they selling the whole team or are they offering like a piece of the team?
From the sounds of it, I thought it was the whole deal.
Because it really depends on the buyer. I mean, you look at
Right.
the Mets getting Cohen. Cohen's got unlimited money. I think that's a good thing for them.
Baltimore.
I mean, they've got an owner now with basically unlimited money who's also a fan. Same with Cohen. I think when you see those guys step into those roles, that's a win. If you're going to get an owner who is hands off and just wants to, kind of make a return on his cash, like the Oakland
Fenway Sports
Athletics,
Group.
or Fenway Sports Group, then you get what you get. So I think the family's identifying the fact that, like, hey, there's some money to be made here, and like this isn't for us anymore. But I would like to believe that if you can get somebody in who's got resources and a love of the game and wants to win, that can be huge for that fan base.
Yeah, 1.5 billion is what they're on sale for. So I call that a slow Tuesday.
Yeah, whatever. I mean,
what is this been?
Will they take cash?
I should have kept up on this better, but is this something that they've been like putting out there for a couple of years, or is this like kind of surprising?
It's fairly recent, like just came out a couple of days ago. It's their intentions to sell the MLB franchise valued at nearly 1.5
and
billion.
who owns it now?
The
Pohlad
Pohlad
family.
Yeah.
And they've owned it for how long?
Since 1984. They bought it for
years.
$44 million.
$44 million in 1984.
Yep.
Because I'm wondering, like, in Harrison, you're much better at this than I am. Are they bleeding money on this?
No, last I checked, and I'll pull it up. Hang on. Minnesota Twins. No, they made $20 million last year. So I mean, again,
to me, this smells like they know they have an idea on who they want to sell this team to. Right? Like this smells to me like, hey, like we see the success that Steve Cohen is having with the Mets. We see the immediate success almost in Baltimore. I mean, they haven't won a World Series, obviously, neither of the Mets, but right, like it almost seems to me like they have an idea in mind on who or which group of people they want to sell this to. This just seems bizarre that it would just come so quick for a team that, is spending money. I mean, this isn't a team that's been bleeding money and out there being like, well, we can't pay contracts. Oh, gosh. I love this. Stanton just hitting big, barely reaching the warning track fly balls. This is awesome. This seems to me like we have an idea, like we have one or two people in mind or one group or two groups or whatever in mind that we want to sell it to. It just seems really quick on the trigger. I don't know if that makes any sense, but
no, it does. And my first thought was they had somebody in mind. And as I dug deeper into this the other day, and I meant to look up a couple more things, but they've actually hired Allen and Company, which is an investment bank, to actually facilitate the sale, which tells me they're taking it to the open market and they're going to actually solicit bids for this. So there's two reasons behind the sale from what I'm reading. One is the team has been passed down for a couple generations, is now controlled by the original owner's grandson, Joe Pohlad, who doesn't really want to run a baseball organization. I think the family's kind of
this is real life Little Big League.
It kind of, yeah. Like, so
it down to grandson.
It went from grandfather to father to grandson. The grandson has it now, and not that he doesn't enjoy doing it, but it's not really what he wants to do. And they're looking at the fact that we're sitting on this $1.5 to $2 billion asset that we don't really want. Why don't we just liquidate it and pass the money around and call it a day? The other part of it too is that the Twins are one of those teams, if you recall, that got absolutely obliterated by the TV deal that imploded.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So now MLB is actually taking back the TV rights to the Twins, and MLB is producing their games now because they can't find a network to take them. So I think the Pohlads are saying, look, this is a mess. Like, we're in a weird spot. This isn't for us to continue to fight. We've had a good run. Let's get out. So I think they're getting out before this kind of gets a little bit uglier.
Gotcha.
Because they don't have a TV network, and MLB is going to have to take it over and help them out. And it's a little bit messy right now. So I think they're looking at it as, this is not something we want to deal with. Let's go find somebody who's better equipped to handle it.
That's fair.
And let's put $1.5 billion in our pockets while we're at it.
Yeah. I mean, sure.
We can make $20 million a year forever on this thing, or put $1.5 billion in our pockets.
Easy choice.
Yeah. I mean, that seems pretty straightforward to me.
With no work.
Right. Let's just, we'll put it in a freaking annuity and just go to the beach.
Goodness. I don't know what beach you're going to in Minnesota, but that's something.
Oh, please.
Anyways.
You know that those people don't live in Minnesota anymore, man. Come on.
Right.
If you had that kind of money, you staying in Minnesota? Hell no.
Probably not.
Hell no. I'm living in Puerto Rico or somewhere where the tax rates are lower and people will leave me alone.
Yep. All right. We have some trivia. We're back to National League single season record trivia. If you're in the chat, please help these guys out because they need it. So
Because they're idiots.
We only get the easy ones.
yeah, I'm going to tell you there are a couple sleepers in this one, so I will try to help you through them. But you definitely know all of the players in there, but there's a couple tricky ones.
Yeah.
So here we go. National League single season team records. First one. Who's the only Arizona Diamondbacks player to play in all 162 games in a single season? He actually accomplished it twice.
Wasn't it Christian Walker?
Nope.
D. Gordon.
Nope.
Council.
No. This is probably one of the best Diamondbacks players of all time.
Gonzalez?
Yeah, Luis Gonzalez. 2000 and 2001.
2 years in a row.
Wow.
2
that's
years in a
impressive.
row. Yep.
Jesus.
Well,
It's like-
is it Matt Olson who's now done it 3 years in a row?
He didn't. I think he sat this year. I want to say that his streak
Okay.
ended this year,
It's too bad.
but I could be wrong on that. You might want to fact check me on that one. But all right, next one. Who holds the franchise record for batting strikeouts in a single season for the Atlanta Braves?
Who are some of the big whiff machines there?
That's a rich franchise, too. Holy moly.
I know.
This is recent,
Oh, is it Olson?
not Olson, but a teammate.
Riley?
Nope,
Sean Murphy
nope,
strikes out a lot.
Does Soler?
no. This guy won the MVP last year.
Acuna?
Yeah,
Really?
in 2019.
They've also
188
never had a
cases.
200K guy.
I was just gonna say 188's the record.
Yep.
Wow.
Wow.
I figured for sure one of those big boys had 200K season.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah, Ronald Acuna,
That's
188.
impressive. When 188's the worst, that's pretty good.
Yeah. Who holds the franchise record for most hits in a single season for the Chicago Cubs? And this one's crazy because he also holds the record for most hits in a single season for the St. Louis Cardinals.
Fowler?
Richard? No. We had this one a couple weeks ago, last time we did National League Trivia.
Cubs and Cards. Grace?
Way back in the day.
Oh, it was way back. Okay, way back in the day.
The highest average for a second baseman.
Oh, Hornsby.
Yeah. Rogers Hornsby.
Wow.
See, I didn't know he played for the Cubs. Like
I
that was
didn't either. I
Mm.
I
crazy.
would never have guessed him.
Yeah. So that's one of the sleepers I was telling you about.
Huh.
Pretty cool. Yeah. 229 hits. That guy, his career is like just littered with 200 hit seasons.
It's gross.
Insane.
It was like automatic.
Yeah. Insane.
Swinging a telephone pole.
Who holds the franchise record for drawing the most walks in a single season for the Cincinnati Reds?
Ooh. Votto.
Yes,
No.
sir.
Yeah.
I'm
It's
trying
our
to think
boy.
of people that walked a lot. I'm like, I can only think of Votto.
Yeah, it's our boy. 143 in 2015.
Love him. I really hope that he pops up next year somewhere doing something in baseball.
Yeah. Who holds the franchise record for most RBIs in a single season for the Colorado Rockies?
Galarraga?
Dante Bichette.
Galarraga. Harrison's on one right now.
150.
150 in 1996.
Nobody sniffs these numbers anymore.
Yeah. The big cat. Well, Judge had what? Judge had 144, 147.
Yeah.
I think
You had what?
144.
Was it 2 or 3 guys that broke 130 this year?
Yeah. Crazy.
Judge Otani and did somebody else? I feel like somebody else broke 130. Oh, Larry Walker's a good one too. John.
Yep. The big cat, Andres Galarraga.
Yeah,
All
he
right.
could drive in some runs.
Who holds the franchise record for most doubles in a single season for the Los Angeles / Brooklyn Dodgers?
Most doubles.
Was it L.A. or Brooklyn?
It was LA.
Matt Kemp.
No.
That was
It's
gonna
a
be
good
my
guess.
guess.
That's
Because he
good
hit a
guess.
lot of doubles.
Um,
Ethier.
No.
Current? Like not current, but like
Yes.
modern era?
Current. Very, very, very current Dodgers.
Mookie?
Nope.
Oh, was it Shohei this year?
Not Shohei.
Freddie?
The other MVP. Yep. 59
59? Wow.
last year. Yeah. 2023.
He's a hitting machine.
I love watching him hit. It's so unorthodox, but it works, man. He's
His
unreal.
stance and his swing are like uncomfortable, but they work.
Yeah, it's insane. Who holds the franchise record for striking out the most times in a single season for the Florida/Miami Marlins? This one's a real sleeper.
Dan Ugla.
Nope. He is a center fielder. He played in Florida from 98 to 2002.
Oh.
Also played for the Rockies, the Nationals, and a little bit with the Cardinals towards the end of his career.
Eisenreich?
No, that's a name I haven't heard forever.
Jim Eisenreich? Yeah, it's been a
Yeah.
while. Not Juan Pierre.
No. I might have to give this one to you.
Yeah,
Not
Cliff Lloyd
Floyd.
didn't play center field.
This one is Preston Wilson.
Oh, yes. Dude was like 7% body fat. He was an absolute machine, but he could not.
Yeah,
He struck
Long
out a
thing.
lot.
yeah. Preston Wilson.
Oh, man, that's a name I should have gotten.
Would have been here all night.
Who holds the franchise record for most doubles in a single season for the Milwaukee Brewers?
Ryan Braun.
No.
Yelich?
Yes. No, not Yelich. This guy was a first baseman. Also played for the Blue Jays and the Diamondbacks. Probably known more for Blue Jays and Brewers, I would say.
Oh, man.
How recent?
When he was in Milwaukee, it was 2004. His career was 2001 to 2014.
Got Paul Molitor in the
2001
chat.
to 2014.
No, not Paul Molitor. He was a lefty.
Wasn't Thames, was it?
No, not Thames. This is
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
I do remember Lyle
Overbay.
Overbay.
Yeah.
I remember, I think
Lyle
even more as a
Overbay.
Blue Jay.
Yeah, that was a really random one. I was like, oh, that's a good one.
Random one, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one,
Yeah.
though.
But yeah, I remember most of his time with the Blue Jays and the Brewers. I don't really remember him bouncing around
yeah.
after that, but
Nope.
Yeah.
That's a good one. That's a
Yeah.
tough one.
all right. Who holds a franchise record for most triples in a single season for the New York Mets? And this guy was not with the Mets for very long.
Oh. Is
I
this like
rem-
an Andy Chavez kind of guy?
Very similar, but a little bit before him. His career was 87 to 2000. I remember him mostly with the good White Sox teams with like Frank Thomas, Robin Ventura, Ozzie Guillen, and all of them. He was a center fielder. He was a lefty, speedster.
Not Podsednik, is it? Is that too soon for him?
That's Pasednik.
Oh, he was in the 90s and 2000s, yeah.
He played for the Mets in 1996. He was an all-star.
Jesus.
He led the league in plate appearances, at bats, hits, and triples that season.
Wow.
Yeah. This one's a really tough one too.
Who was the center fielder back then? Because that was like Ventura, Zeal, Pratt, like it was all those teams, but how was the center fielder?
That's you guys. I was too young.
96. Zeal and them are after that, but weren't
Oh
they?
yeah,
A
they
little
would
bit.
have been the tail end of that.
Yeah. So this is Lance Johnson.
Oh. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Played
not
there
a,
for
not
2
a
years.
guy that I remember as the Met.
No. Yeah, he was all White Sox for me because I grew
Yep.
up watching the White Sox on Friday
Yeah,
nights.
I see
like,
that
he
name
was
now.
there.
I'm like, okay, that makes sense because he was
Yeah.
basically all White Sox.
Yeah, and
What was
fast
that?
as
Triples? You
that.
said.
Yeah, 21 triples.
It's a lot
21.
of triples.
Oh,
Yeah, he led the league in triples a lot. It was, I think I saw 4 or 5 seasons that he led the league in triples.
And he was a hell of a bunter, as you see in the picture. But that guy could drag him anywhere.
Yeah, crazy. Yeah, he led the league 13 in 91, 12 in 92, 14 in 93 and 94, and that was a strike shortened season.
Jeez.
Had 12 in 95, 21 in 96. So, yeah, ended with
Like,
117 career triples.
It's a lot.
Crazy. Yeah. Who holds the franchise record for most home runs in a season for the Philadelphia Phillies? I think this is kind of a layup.
Is it Michael
Ryan
Jack Schmidt?
Howard.
It is Ryan Howard. Yep, 58.
Oh, I forgot about the 58 home run season.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
2006. Who holds the franchise record for most times striking out in a single season for the Pittsburgh Pirates? And this is another name that you'll be like, oh, yeah, but you'll remember that it was pretty well publicized that this guy could not put the bat on the ball for his time in Pittsburgh here. He was a third baseman, first baseman, left-handed hitter from 2010 to 2018, but was only in Pittsburgh from 2010 to 2015. And he set the record in 2013, where, ironically enough, he was an all-star and a Silver Slugger.
Of course.
Because he also hit 36 home runs that year, but he struck out 186 times.
Oof.
But this one is Pedro
Oh.
Alvarez.
Oh, geez. Yeah.
Yep. So home run or strikeout ultimately in that year, for sure. All right. Who holds the franchise record for most runs scored in a single season for the San Diego Padres? This one's more down the middle. It's probably who you think it is. Just not Tony Gwynn. Not Tony.
Just not Tony Gwynn. As you say it, that was perfect.
So we also call this guy Mr. NL West.
We call someone Mr. NL West?
Yeah, this guy played for, I believe, every NL West team at one point in his career. Center fielder.
Oh, Finley?
Yeah, Steve Finley.
Yeah, he did play everywhere.
The only one I'm not sure about is the Dodgers. Did he spend? He
I
did. Dodgers,
remember.
Diamondbacks, Padres, Rockies, Giants. He played for all of them.
Yeah, I don't remember the Dodgers, but I remember the others.
Yep. So, yep, Steve Finley, 126.
It's a lot of runs scored.
Yep. Who holds the franchise record for most RBIs in a single season for the San Francisco / New York Giants? And it is a New York Giant. I will give you that.
Oh, okay. So you take Bonds right off the table.
His career was 26 to 47.
(1926 to 1947).
Yep. No, it's definitely not 2026 to 2047.
Well, no, I'm rational. That was an out loud from my own brain.
Yeah, he's thinking out loud.
Yeah.
And he played for the New York Giants that whole entire time. And this is a name that you've definitely
We
heard.
got Mel Ott in the chat.
It is Mel Ott. Nice.
Wow,
Nicely
good pull.
done.
151. Nice work.
Yeah, we had Mel Ott in the chat.
Nice.
Great guess, because I was not getting that one.
Yeah. Nice.
Thank you for the help.
Who holds the single season record for most stolen bases in a single season for the St. Louis Cardinals?
Brock?
Yeah, it is.
I was
Lou
gonna say,
Brock.
I'm sitting here going, wait a second, what? Isn't
Yeah.
isn't that Lou Brock?
Yep, 118 and 74. Yep, that one was right down the middle. And I have two more.
That one felt like a trick. It was. That's why.
Wait,
Yeah,
what
right.
was the question? I just spaced out there for a second. What was the question for Lou Brock?
Most stolen bases in a single season for St. Louis Cardinals.
He swiped 118 bags. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all right.
All right. Who holds a franchise record for most home runs in a single season for the Montreal Expos / Washington Nationals?
So it's not Harper. It's not Zimmerman. It's not.
Soto? It's not Soto, right?
And so I can give you a clue, but probably gives it away.
The Dawson.
Vlad
not
Guerrero?
Dawson. Nope. Think Triple Crown. Not Triple Crown. Sorry. Think 40-40.
Oh, Soriano.
Soriano. Yeah.
Hmm.
46, 2006. That was his 40-40 season, I believe. 2006.
Oh, right. Right. He did that in Washington.
Yep. All right. And I got a bonus question for you. Who is the only player in Major League history with over 10,000 plate appearances without a sacrifice bunt?
Pujols.
Nope.
Jim Thome.
Nope.
That's a good one. Without a sack bunt.
Griffey.
Bonds.
Nope. Not Griffey. Not Bonds. You're in the right era, though.
McGuire.
Nope.
Giambi.
Not Giambi. AL Central.
Well, I just said Thome.
Yeah,
He was talking about Mr.
Doesn't he
Efficient.
covers the
Yeah.
whole Central, right?
Yep. Nope. Not Barry Bonds.
Frank Thomas.
It is Frank Thomas.
There you go.
Yeah. The Big Hurt. Yeah, Big Hurt ain't sacrifice bunt.
Hell no. I don't. Probably allergic to bunting.
Yeah, right. So yeah.
When you
There
got
we
legs
go.
that big, you don't bunt.
No. Absolutely massive human being, that guy.
Gigantic.
Absolutely crazy.
Holy cow.
Wow. Yeah. Thanks for your help in the chat, guys. That was awesome. Nice
Yes,
work.
thank you
Yeah, I
for
got
the
smoked.
pull on Melot. That was great.
Yeah,
I
there
got
were
smoked.
some tough ones in there this week, so I
Yeah.
can't wait for everybody to Google those and answer them when we cut them up into reels later. So
I don't care. Just leave some comments and participate.
Yeah.
That's all we care about.
John, yeah, no joke, dude. Oh my god, that's awesome. Yeah. But yeah, that's all I had for this week. Do you guys have anything else to add?
I'm good.
I'm good. Nothing here.
Wow, Harrison's good.
I know it wasn't a lot of news this week. It was relatively. I mean, it's all been playoff baseball. Like there hasn't been anything really going on outside of that. I mean, we can talk about the fact that Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce were at the Guardians Yankees game. I mean,
Were they already left?
Yeah. Well, they
well,
think
sorry,
they
they
are.
are. Sorry, I should say they are. Maybe they may have left. I don't know. It's probably all just a PR stunt. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. So I don't know. We'll see. I mean, with the way the division series was and how close and exciting those games were, like this has been the best playoffs that I can remember for some time.
in a couple
Like,
of
this
years.
has been-
Yeah, it's been really good.
Yeah.
Both national
Been
and
very
American
exciting
League
baseball.
have been good.
So I'm hoping these two
Yeah, and
series
listen,
are slugfests.
Me too. I hope I'm wrong about the Yankees Guardians. I don't think I am. I hope I'm wrong. I hope it goes 6. I hope it goes 7. I hope Cleveland makes them kind of dump in their pants a little bit. I think it's a tall task for them.
I just don't want to see Yankees Dodgers. Like, please God, do not give us.
Oh,
that
give me a
matchup.
Subway. Give me a Subway. With the 14
I
that
would
are
take
left,
that,
give me a
yeah.
Subway. Give me a Subway.
Yeah, I would take that.
Yeah.
I just do not want Yankees Dodgers. Gotta make me puke all over myself.
I mean, I sit here and say I wouldn't watch it, but I would. I mean,
Oh, I'll watch every pitch of it.
Like-
but I'll hate it.
right.
Yeah, I'm gonna like hate watch it. Like I'm not gonna enjoy it, but I'm gonna watch it because I can't help myself.
Yeah. Oh,
And
wait.
honestly, I hope.
Dude,
I
do you
love
imagine
it. I
the
love
field
the
day?
call.
Do you imagine the field day I'll have though? We get to come on here and just we just get to rip apart Boone, and although Roberts, I'm walking back a little bit on, but I just get to you just get to nitpick
Oh man,
both
that'd
of
be
those
fun.
guys' decisions. I mean, at
Yeah.
least I can hate watch that.
Yeah.
That's true. It gives us something to talk about. I will say I hope in this ALCS we get a chance to like really put a spotlight on Jose Ramirez and give everybody in the world a shot to see what that guy can do.
Yeah, there's been talks around him this week about that other. I can't remember who said it, but he was like the most underappreciated MLB player out there. And Boone was asked that question today, and Boone's like, underappreciated? No, we know exactly who this guy is. He's a superstar. He's a stud. Like, just because he's not Shohei or Aaron Judge, like people know who Jose Ramirez is. Like.
They do. I think the issue is like when you look at like MLB's Facebook page,
He's not
it's
publicized.
80% Shohei Ohtani, 15% Aaron Judge, and like 5% like whatever like some big market team is doing. Like Jose
Juan
Ramirez
Soto.
doesn't
I
get
mean, Juan
nearly the
Soto
coverage
gets
he
to him.
deserves.
Yeah.
Which is entirely the point of the question.
Yeah.
So, like, yes, Aaron Boone, we know you know baseball, so we're proud of you for knowing who Jose Ramirez is.
Yeah, it's your
That's
job
not
to
the
know who
intent
he
of the
is, bud.
question. That's not the intent of the question. The intent of the question was, who is the one player in baseball that should get the spotlight on them night in and night out and doesn't? And it's Jose Ramirez.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
That's
Aaron
the
Boone.
intent
Last
of
time
the
I checked,
question.
it is your job to know who the opposing players, but the average baseball fan doesn't really know who he is. Maybe they've heard his name and seen a highlight, but they don't really know what he does.
Yeah. Almost a 40-40 out of him this year too. Like
He's
absolutely insane.
Another guy who he is the spark.
Yeah. And he's there for the rest of his career. I love that. I love that he was like, I'm not going to free agency. I'm signing here and I want to be here. So and that does a lot for your organization. That says that we have a superstar here that doesn't want to leave. Come play with him. Kind of what I was saying about Bobby Witt last week. It's like, hey, our doors are open. Come play with him. Like because he's not going anywhere. So
well, it's the nice thing you've got that one cornerstone player that's going to be there for the duration, and it's important to bring players in around him that he gels with. It's that was part of what made the Astros dynasty there so good for so long, because it was the core group of 3 or 4 guys that all kind of came in around the same time together, stayed together all the way through. It's what made the Patriots dynasty so good. People came to play with Tom Brady. You have to have that player who is the anchor, and then bring everybody into them.
Yeah, I love that. So, and in an era that you don't see that much anymore, you don't see a guy staying with a team anymore.
it's designed for not that.
Right.
That's the whole point. I mean, it's designed so that doesn't happen.
Yeah, I'm going to take $1 million. I'm going to take $1 million more to go across the country than stick around here.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Anything else before we pack it up for the night, fellas?
I would just say everybody should keep an eye out for our GoFundMe link and our bid for the Twins. We'll be putting it out on social media here soon.
Yeah. So, yeah.
That'd be a hell of a podcast behind the scenes of running the Twins. People should invest in that.
That would be insane.
And then the first hire is Aaron Boone.
Hell no. Hell no.
Just
not Aaron. No, we'll keep Rocco Baldelli for now and see what he's got. See if he can really handle that. But we got to get him some more talent.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, thanks for chiming in like always. Thanks for coming back every week and joining the discussion, guys. It's really appreciated. But before you go, just make sure you follow and like us on Facebook. You can follow on Instagram. You can subscribe on YouTube. You can listen on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast. You can share our reels, comment on our reels. Love the interactions. And to answer all of your questions, we will be on during the off season as well. We come on every single Monday at 8 p.m. We talk about the news. We'll make free agent predictions and all of that stuff. But we still got another, month of baseball here. So we got our nose to the grindstone right now, and hopefully some great series and outcomes that we would like to see.
Yeah. Watching baseball till our eyes bleed.
Yeah, absolutely. So we will be back on next Monday at 8 to recap everything that had happened this week and hopefully some good baseball. So we'll see you next Monday at 8 p.m.
Sweet.
All right, boys.